Hi guys, welcome back to Detailing on the Beast. Today, don't get me wrong, this is not an educational video, but I want to see how long it'll take me to burn through this paintwork using a cutting pad, a DA polisher and some Menzerna Power Gloss, which is one of their most heavy cut compounds. So we've got quite an aggressive setup and I just want to see how long it takes me. I've got my trusty paint depth gauge as well so we can measure along the way. I just want to see how long it'll take me to burn through this bonnet. This is more of a self-education piece. Now, don't get me wrong, all these paintworks on all these manufacturers on all these cars are all going to be different. They're going to be of different toughnesses, different hardnesses in terms of the clear coat, the lacquer. There's going to be different thicknesses of lacquer on different cars in different areas on the same car. They're all going to be different. So this isn't going to teach anybody anything. These numbers cannot be taken for granted on any other car. But I just want to see, for my own purposes, how long it will take me to burn through this paintwork. Let's get to it. So this is the section I've taped off on my bonnet. It's nice and up the corner, it's out the way, so when I do strike through, it's not going to be in the way of any future testing or anything like that. So this is a good place to start. I've taped this section off. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some readings now on this using my paint depth gauge. And this is reading a mean average of 94 microns. So that's our starting point, 94. So I don't know how much of that 94 is made up of the primer, the colour and the clear coat. I have no idea. My aim here is to burn through that clear coat. I suppose when we get there we can measure again to see what's left and see how much clear coat was on there. So that'll give us a good indication. But as I say, not an educational piece. The numbers are not to be taken into fact for anybody else's machine work. This is purely for this paint on this bonnet. Let's get to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run 3 minutes on each set just to avoid overheating and wrecking my pad. Wiping it all down, giving my pad a few minutes to cool off, and then we'll go again. Spreading on speed 1, moving up to speed 3. Now I have cut that set short on the first instance because 1, I can feel the heat being generated, and 2, that is starting to dry out. So we'll clear that up, we'll give the pad some time to cool down, and then we'll go again. So currently you're joining me between minutes 11 and minutes 14. We've seen a little degradation of the clear coat from the paint depth gauge. So on the first 2 minutes we went to 86. Between 2 and 5 we went down to 85. Between 5 and 8 we went down to 83 microns. And between 8 and 11 minutes was the biggest hit so far. We went down to 79 microns. All of this has been conducted at speed 4, just because that's where I normally operate the 3-inch DA at. So these are the readings between minutes 14 and 17. So we've done 17 minutes now total polishing. And we've got a mean reading of 67 over 13 takes. But we're still not burnt through. I think we're getting close. We'll keep going. So just to reiterate, we've done 17 minutes of polishing in this section with a microfiber cutting pad and a Menzerner power gloss heavy cut compound. You can see the induced marks from this compound. It's not a finishing compound by any means. It's probably one of the heaviest compounds that Menzerner do. But on we go. And finally, after around about 22 minutes, I finally did break through. So this here, let me just draw these on. You'll see these on the camera, I'm sure. But there's a concentric couple of rings there. The outside is still good lacquer. That is reading somewhere around about the 49 to 51 mark around there. That inner ring there where you can see it is burnt, it is starting to fail. That's still clear coat, but it is starting to fail. Is around about 47 microns on this bonnet. And inside that, you can see there, if I just wipe that off with a little bit of IPA, that there is colour. That is not clear coat, that is gone. You can see from the pad we've started to get colour transfer, and that inner area there, it eroded ridiculously fast. As soon as I noticed that had gone through, it had already taken off another 20 microns. This inner area here is reading 27 microns as per this. So once you burn through, it erodes through really, really quickly. But as I say, this is not an educational piece. It's just to show you, roughly what can be done to paintwork, what sort of hammering it can take. I'm planning on doing a wet sand on this whole bonnet as well, just to try and get some gloss back into it, because it is horrendous. Going to test out some polishes and pads for another review video, but I just want to show you how much of a hammering clear coat can actually take. As I say, don't take anything from this in terms of the numbers. So guys, there you go. 22 minutes was the final figure. It took 22 minutes of continual polishing. That's with the machine running, not with the gaps in between. That's actual 22 minutes of polishing a section that was probably 8 inches by 5 inches, so a really small section, really concentrated, and a heavy amount of polishing with a heavy microfiber cut pad, a heavy cut compound, one of the most aggressive scenarios you can think of, and it took 22 minutes to go through that clear coat. The clear coat started off at 97 microns, and by the time we went through, it was roughly half that at 47-ish microns. One thing to note, when I did actually strike through, the rate of degradation on the paint underneath was phenomenal. By the time I'd even noticed paint transfer on my pad, another 20 microns had just disappeared. So, if you do this on your own car, I mean, it's a different story if you do it on a customer's, I suppose. But if you do this on your own car, it's not the end of the world. Yes, it's a respray, and yes, it's probably going to be expensive, but it's not the end of the world. It is repairable. But what I wanted to tell you from this video and what I wanted to get across was that it shouldn't be scary. Machine polishing shouldn't be scary. Now there are some fantastic videos out there online, especially on YouTube, around machine polishing. The best one that I can think of off the top of my head was from John at Forensics Detailing. He did I think it was actually called The Beginner's Guide to Machine Polishing, and he managed to fit everything, and I mean everything. He did a fantastic job of this video in 16 minutes. It was 15 or 16 minutes long. And how the hell he got all that in 15 minutes is beyond me, but he did. So go and check that one out if you're thinking about getting into this. But my message for today is, if you do want to get into it, don't be scared. Please don't be scared of it. Everybody has to learn somewhere, okay? I remember, I'll tell you a little story. I remember the first time I actually struck through paint on a car. It was a red Civic Type R, and on the rear quarter, somebody had taken it in for a repair. It's not my car, by the way, you know, and I felt awful afterwards, but somebody had taken it in for the cheapest of cheap repairs, and what the guys had done is they'd mixed the paint and the lacquer into one, sprayed it up just to do it really, really fast, and it was horrendous. The orange peel on it was awful. So I told the guy to leave it a few weeks. He did. Bought it in. I had a look at it. Yeah, it's orange peel, no problem, mate. Yeah, it's all fine. Give it a little bit of a wet sand, and it looked to be, you know, it started to remove the peaks off that orange peel. Went to polish it up, and I did hit it with something quite heavy. You know, at the time it was at that time the new Meguiar's microfiber system, and I hit it with that, and the first I noticed was the paint transfer. Now, obviously, I was getting paint transfer because they'd mixed the colour and the lacquer. So I carried on, sillily, trying to chase perfection on this rear wing, and it was a bad job to start with. It was never, ever going to be perfect, and it was never even going to match the rest of the car. But we ended up striking through, and it did look a mess. It went all matte. It was all matte red underneath, where obviously they'd just blown over the top of the old colour. So yeah, I remember that. It was not a nice feeling at all, but you know what? It wasn't the end of the world. Nobody died, and it all turned out okay in the end, I suppose. So yeah, funny story. If you've got any of your own detailing cock-ups, put them in the comments below. I always like a good giggle, and I'll subsequently take the mick out of you for it. How about that, right? That's a good enough deal. Anyway, I hope this was of some interest to some of you, and I hope to God it didn't scare anybody. That's not what I was trying to do today. I was trying to actually put you at ease with machine polishing and showing you that a section can actually take quite a beating before you cause some damage in most scenarios. So anyway, I hope you found it useful. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you on next time's video. Goodbye.